You're listening to OMTimes Radio. The following is an encore presentation. Welcome to Joy of Business with host Simone Milasas, a dynamic business leader with a difference. Simone has founded and operated many businesses from a young age and has always done business differently. Today, Simone is the worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness and travels the world presenting Joy of Business programs using access tools and empowering people to know that they can create business in a different way and make money doing it. Simone Milasas, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hi everybody, welcome to Joy of Business. You're with Simone Milasas, your host. And for once, I feel like the last however many weeks I've been saying I'm at Perugian Beach, I'm at home, but today I'm not. I'm actually in Telluride, Colorado. So it's been absolutely wonderful, freezing, very, very cold, but it's been wonderful. I've been skiing and we happened to go heli skiing yesterday, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And today is a pretty different show. I have quite a few people on with me, so bear with me. The show is called Being You, Changing the World. So it's the business of being you. And it's like hopefully what we're going to do today is give you some tools, give you a few stories, etc., that you can take away, that you can start to have a look at what it is like to be you. Because, I mean, how many times have you tried to be somebody else, whether you're at school, at college, or at home, etc., and it's like you try and be like somebody else, and it's like that is probably one of the most unappealing things in the world as well, and it never feels good. And it's like, but when you're being you, and I know all of you have an area of your life, it may be cooking, it may be surfing, it may be skiing, it could be anything. And it's like, but when you have that place where you are being you, and it's like anything is possible. So what if you're actually willing to have that and be that 24/7? And it is possible. And it's not something that is, it's not something that you're invited to do your whole life. It's sort of more projected at you or expected of you that you should, or you couldn't, rather than what would you do if you were being you? So today on the show, I have Brendon, who I think some of you guys have met. Say hello, Brendon.
Hello, Brendon.
And then I have Mr. Jonas Svensson, who I know you guys have met as well.
Hello.
Hello, Jonas. And Megan Hill, who I think you've actually hijacked one of my shows once with Rebecca.
I did
hijack
your show. Hello.
I did ask you to hijack my show. And then we've got the lovely Katarina Wallentin from Sweden, who's also been on OMTimes.
Hello.
So we've got 5 of us. Now, why do we have 5 of us on here? Because, I'm going to tell you straight up right now, Dr. Dana here, who's also been on OMTimes Joy Business Radio show, is doing something quite amazing, and I'm absolutely thrilled about this. Next March this March actually, that's right, we're in 2016 now. This March, he's going to be doing a Being You facilitator training. Now, there's a whole lot of things that you have to do. You have to be a certified facilitator of access for starters to actually go to that. But he's written an amazing book called Being You, Changing the World. You can get on Amazon. You can get on accessconsciousness.com at the shop. And it's an amazing book, and it covers so many different areas of your life. Like, I mean, how many different areas, like money, business, sex, relationship, bodies, your point of view, like all of this. What if you're allowed to be you? So what's going to happen is we're going to have Being You facilitators around the world. And there's a full-day class, and you'll have a manual, etc., and a whole lot of tools and processes for you to take away that you can start to have a look at what it is like to be you. So what we're doing, we're the guinea pigs, as they say, and we are doing a couple of classes. Dane actually asked if we could do a few classes with the manual and just do a test drive, see how it goes. So it's a class that's usually $350. It will be $250. Now, Jonas is starting it off. He's our first guinea pig. He's going to be doing one on the 23rd of January. It will be live streamed as well from Copenhagen, Denmark. Then on the 30th of January, simultaneously, sort of, because Brendon and I are in Australia, so we'll be a day earlier, we're doing one in Noosa, Australia, that will be live streamed, and Katarina is doing one in Sweden, in Stockholm, and Megan is doing one in Denver, Colorado. So we're trying to cover a lot of the world to do one of these classes. So if you want to know more about that, what URL can they go to? Who knows? It's not a test, I just don't know.
It is beingyouclass.com/premiere.
Excellent.
And they can find all the classes.
beingyou.com/premiere. Okay, perfect.
Beingyouclass.com.
beingyouclass.com premiere. Premier. So that's a little introduction. That's a little sales pitch. I'll tell you later on again too about when our classes are. So what we wanted to do is give you a bit of a taste of this. So Megan, let's start with you. Just because you're at the top of my list, I had to write everyone's names down. It's like, tell me an area that you what I'd love to do is give people some tools as well, so that they could, even if it's like just some awesome questions that they can take away. So it's like, what's one of the areas that you would say that you've been you your whole entire life, or an area that you have managed to change to be more you, and what did that look like?
It's really weird. I would say it's my whole life, which sounds, all encompassing, but I was really good at trying, figuring out how to fit in. I was, as part of like the popular crowd, if you want to say that, in high school. And so I knew I could figure out really how to get people to like me and how to just really mingle with lots of different people. And in that, I sort of started losing who I was and what I would choose if I were, really looking for what I would like to choose. So I think when I first started applying the tools, it was when I was working, I was an advertising executive at a big advertising agency. And there it's really not allowed for you to step out of line. You need to sort of, do what you need to do to climb the corporate ladder. And it was so funny because I remember I did a telecall with Dane called The Elements of Being, and I took I would listen late after work, and I would listen to everything that he said on there, and I would apply it in meetings and with clients and in my job, and somehow me actually choosing to be me, so saying things that nobody else would say when I knew that I could say them, or being, just a presence that you're not supposed to be, walking tall, being, just being totally confident in who you are, even if that, threatened your supervisor or somebody else who had more stake in the company than you, and you were aware that that was threatening them and they would prefer for you to follow, under them. These tools just gave me the place where I could actually have fun. I had ease, and anybody else's point of view of me or judgment of me, it didn't sting as bad if they didn't like me or if they had, some judgment or if they said something to me. I was totally cool being me, whatever that looked like, whenever, and I could be anything. I didn't have to be one certain thing. So I could be sweet and kind, and I could also be, a bitch right back to somebody who was being a bitch. So I would say that's where I had fun with it.
We can pretty much finish the show. You just really did. You nailed that. That was brilliant. And it's like, but I just want to pick up on some of the points that you were talking about. And I love that you mentioned the corporate world. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because one of the things I see is like people, they don't be them 24/7, 7 days a week, but it's like from Monday to Friday, they have their suitcase, they dress up and they go to work and they complain about work, the beginning of the week on Monday, and then Wednesday, that's the drudgery of halfway through the week. And, and then on the weekend, I know in Australia, it's like, how drunk can you get? Rather than, what would I like to create with my life? And I love that you mentioned the elements of being. And it's like, which obviously was a class from Dane, and this is all coming from Dane too, the elements of being and the presence that you have. And the one thing I wanted to mention is when you said it didn't matter if people were judging you or not, one of the things that Gary and Dane have always spoken about is, if you have the willingness to receive judgment, and it's like being a big marshmallow. It's like people can poke it, but it just comes back to being a marshmallow. So it's like, what if you're willing to actually receive judgment? Like, how many of you, and it's like try and avoid judgment. So you try and become what you think someone would like you to be rather than being you. So everything that is, everywhere that you've done that, and everywhere that you're judging yourself for still doing it, where you destroy and uncreate it, times a gazillion, right?
Yes.
About pock and pot names, choice, boys and beyond. Sorry, go ahead.
I would love to add something also to what Megan said.
Sure.
This is Katarina. One of the main things that I think has changed for me the more I become me, that is that my needs are disappearing. And it's similar to what you're saying about the judgment. I don't have the same need of approval, of being liked, of getting validation. And I have a background of being bullied in school, which meant that most of my life after that, before that, I was pretty much just me and being a weird kid. And then I got bullied, and my whole life then turned into this kind of eternal search for like knowing that I was liked, knowing that I was approved of, knowing that, you know, I was being something that people would like to have around them. And it very boring existence, I must say. So I would say that's one of the absolute biggest changes, is that need that used to be overarching everything that I did is not there anymore. And the freedom that comes with that, and that goes for the corporate world, my private life, as a parent, everything. And it's just amazing. I wish for everyone to have more of that freedom of actually not having to have that as overarching search for validation, for approval, and like.
And as you say that too, what I'm realizing is I agree, and it's like the needs seem to dissipate, but what actually shows up is the desires. And it's the desire for what you'd like your life to truly be. And you start to choose that, and you start to choose those desires, and something that's actually going to increase the adventure, increase the joy, increase the money flows, increase the adventures of living. So everything it doesn't allow you to give up the needs and actually ask for the desires and start to be more of you, where you destroy and uncreate it, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So, Mr. Jonas Svensson, sorry, go ahead, Katarina.
No, I just want to say that it's so funny with this, though, because once you start going after your desires, it's actually like a catch-22, because if you want to be liked or approved of and everything, people actually find you quite annoying. But once you start going after your desires, that's actually when you start finding people who you have fun with and that you like to be around, that like to be around you. So I just wanted to add that. It's not like you lose everyone. It's actually like you gain everything.
Well, actually, you know what? You start to lose the people who do judge you. You start to, I remember at one time Gary Douglas, when I first met him, and he said to me, he asked me questions, and he asked me questions around the people that I was surrounding myself by. And I started to have a look at it. I realized that most of the people I was surrounding myself by judged me. So I did start to lose the people who judged me, and what I started to have around me were people who were honoring of me and who were grateful of me, who had fun with me and didn't expect or project anything at me either. So your whole entire life can change when you start to be you. So everywhere that you're trying to not be you, and as Megan said before, trying to fit in, because guess what, guys? You can't fit in. You can't fit into this reality. You've never fitted, and you're not going to fit. So give up trying to fit, and what would it be like to be you? So I think that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So we are almost off to a break. So I told you, 5 people on this show. It's going to go so quickly. So we'll be coming back, and we'll be talking to Mr. Jonas Svensson. He's next up after the break, so don't go away. You're with Simone Milasas on Joy of Business on OMTimes, and we're talking about being you, and I love the tagline, changing the world.
New year, new business. Adding the joy into the pragmatics of business in 2016. How was 2015? Is it exactly as you would dream of? What if 2016 could be greater or even easier? Using the tools of Joy of Business, your facilitator, Simone Milasas, will explore how you can set up 2016 to be the year that sets you up for a future so brilliant and joyful it's currently unimaginable. What would that be like? Join her for a 4-part series starting in January 2015, January 15th, on your New Year, New Business. Access joyofbusiness.com/New Year.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Katarina Kavanagh, host of the I Am Wisdom radio show. I Am Wisdom is about the connection between mind work and energy work, spirituality and living a wonderful life. Looking forward to sharing each Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with you.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hi everybody, welcome back. You're with Simone Milasas on Joy Business. As I said, our radio show today has 5 people on it, and it's Being You, Changing the World. So let's jump straight into Mr. Jonas Svensson. I love Jonas Svensson's name. To me, it's very exotic, but apparently in Sweden, it's just, it's like average, normal, and real. But Jonas Svensson sounds so exotic to an Australian. So, Mr. Jonas, you've been on many of my radio shows, and I love doing radio shows with you. You're amazing. So what would you like to share with everybody here about being you and changing the world?
Now, I think most for me, like everything that we talked about, or you guys talked about in the first part, it's really, I think that most of us can recognize us in that. I mean, I did the whole corporate thing and how I was trying to fit in something in the weekends, and then I was trying to compensate over the weekends when I was free with doing something totally opposite to sort of prove to myself that I was having me or something. I'm not even sure what I was doing. But this whole thing with the need of fitting in and the need of proving anything, and then the need of doing something else during the weekend to prove that you're doing something else, that's sort of like absolutely the opposite to being, obviously. And when you actually don't have the need to sort of prove anything, there's this space coming with it. And that space is literally changing everything in everything you do. Like there's several situations that I can recall the last couple of years when I have been changing and I have been able to become more of me and actually just have me, and maybe not in all situations yet, but working on it. But every time I am being me, there's like you literally can walk into a room and you change the energy and you change the whole situation, and it creates different possibilities compared to if you're trying to be something that you're not. And that's so inspiring to me every time I see that in my own life, and it just creates so much more for me. And what would it take for me to be that all the time? That's basically what I'm shooting for.
So let me ask you a question. With being you, do you see that as being comfortable all the time?
No, absolutely not, actually. That's a great question. And actually, I love that question. So I would say when you are being you and you're having that space, there's an ease to every situation. It's not necessarily easy, but there's an ease. So whether it's an uncomfortable or if it's a struggling situation or if it's just like surfing on a wave, there's an ease to the situation that you don't have otherwise based on the space that is showing up. But it's definitely not always comfortable. Definitely not.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I'm going to tell a bit of a story too about what happened with Brendon and I yesterday. We're at Telluride, Colorado, which apparently they've got like one of the best seasons they've had in years, 20 years. 20 years or something. Of course we're here. So how does it get any better than that?
That happened when we went to Whistler too.
I know. But the thing is actually when you're being you, and it's like things like that do show up. And it's like I know all of us have situations like that show up. That, you come to a mountain and they go, oh, it's the best season in 20 years. We went to Whistler, with Dane a few years ago, and they went, oh, my God, this has been the best season since, the best week, blah, blah. And it's like we happen to be there. So when you're being you, you start to attract what is the greatness of you and the greatness of the world and the greatness of everyone around you shows up. And like we were talking about, it's not comfortable all the time either. And yesterday, one of the things that we did was go heli skiing. Now, I've been skiing since I was a kid, and I'm in my mid-40s, and I can probably for at least 25 years, maybe 30 years, I've said, I'd love to go heli skiing. Oh, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to go heli skiing. And I know I keep saying it, and there's a place in me that I would go, yeah, I'm going to do it one day, for sure. I would convince myself that I'm going to do it. And Brendon, 2 days ago, went, well, let's do it tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. So we, signed up, paid the money, and I was like, okay, beautiful day, like blue skies, no wind, absolutely gorgeous. Have you ever seen the Coors beer can? Well, the mountain that is on the Coors beer can is what we flew over, and we were heli skiing pretty much right near there. You could see it the whole time. It was amazing. But one of the things that I realized was how many areas of your life do you keep saying, oh, one day I'll do that, or I'd love to do that, but you don't actually choose it. So that was a really big thing for me yesterday, because I was like, wow, I'm actually doing this. And I knew every moment, every 10 seconds, which that's one of the tools that we have from Access Consciousness that we've spoken about on the radio show, is functioning in 10-second increments and making choices in 10-second increments. And it was 10-second increments the whole day, like from them giving you details about avalanche, you had to wear avalanche gear and all this sort of thing, getting in the helicopter, the heights, getting off at this peak of this mountain, and they're like, oh, don't take another step to the left, and it's just a sheer drop, and you're like, yeah, don't worry, I won't be. It's like, they're like, watch your boards, because Brendon's boarding and I was skiing. But it was so, every moment you had to be so present, and you had to be you, and you had to make choices for you. Nobody else was going to make this choice for me. Nobody else was going to get me down the mountain. And there was this one fall that I had. I fell over 3 times, this one fall that I had that was massive. But I realized later, because I was like, what happened? And there was this lip that I went down that was so steep. And I was so excited and so happy with myself and so proud of myself of how I just absolutely nailed this lip, that I was there and I wasn't present with where I was, and I just went head over heels, like landed straight first on my head, and it was just a massive, massive fall, which if you've ever been in powder, do you know when your skis and stocks are everywhere and your body's everywhere and you can't get up? It's so, but no one can get you up. You have to get yourself up. So it's this constant place of this, I want to say like this demand of yourself of, okay, what am I going to do now? What am I choosing now? What's next? What's next? So it's like for me, and it's like doing this heli skiing yesterday brought me to be even more present with myself and have a demand of myself, not just in heli skiing, in every area of my life. And I was like, oh, where else am I still saying I'd love to do that or I'd like to choose that, but I'm not actually choosing it? So right now, it's not about you going to judgment about that. It's about just being brutally honest with yourself and having a look at those areas and saying, what if I did choose it? Or say, oh, apparently I actually don't wish to choose it. Being honest, maybe I don't want to go heli skiing. Maybe you don't actually wish to do this, but you keep saying it, okay? Not about going to judgment, no judgment of you, no wrongness of you, but what is it that you'd actually like to give a shot that you have been avoiding? And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So, Brendon, I'd love you to also talk about, because I know it was quite, I mean, the one thing I will say was I was so grateful Brendon was with me. I felt like I had this something. And, I mean, he can't get me out of the hole either, but something with me. And so what was it like for you as well?
Well, I didn't think about it until we went there, because I've not been on a helicopter before. I've never been in a helicopter. I can't even watch someone lean over a railing without having to walk away, because I have this serious thing with height. So I was like, okay, I just won't think about it. But then when we got there and that chopper started up, I was shitting my pants. So one thing I realized about me yesterday though was I just kept going, you know what, this is not going to stop me. So I just kept going. Every time that fear would come up, or, you know, and I'd look out the window of this helicopter and be like, holy shit. Then I'd just be like, you know what, you're not going to stop me. And I just kept going. And like Simone said, when we got up on that cliff, I was like going, oh my God, like literally you could look over, and if you stepped a little bit too far, the snow would crack and you'd be down a 1,000-foot cliff. So I was like, but I didn't let the fear stop me. So it's one thing I realized was, it's about not giving up. If there's things in your life that you wish to have or be or do, then you just got to do it. It's about putting one foot in front of the other and just going for it, and not having this place where you think that fear is real or that other people's points of view are real, and just doing it. So it was a huge thing, and I got a lot of awareness about myself, that's for sure.
What was the most fun thing for you?
Oh, the powder. I mean, that's amazing. And being up in those mountains where you're skiing down these runs where no one's been. Like, it's fresh. There's no trails. There's nothing. And it's just the peace out there on the planet. I mean, it was awesome. And I'm still kind of buzzing from it. And I'm sore.
Yeah. Me too. And one of the things that you just said, which I think is brilliant too, I mean, we went in places that they haven't even been this season, but they were like, oh my God, this is the best day, and we're not sure when we're going to be able to go again. We haven't been to this mountain this season, but we're going now. So you're on these trails that no one's been before, or not for a long time. What if that was your life? What if that's how you led your life? What if you actually, you were the blazoning trail person, and it's like you being you, and it's like, it's such an invitation for other people to be them. So what if you were willing to be that invitation? It's like, no matter who's around you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, and it's like all the people that you just meet today. And it's like, if you're being you, and you'll notice it, when someone's being them, it's so much more fun to hang out with them. And it's like you want to hang out with them. You never want to leave their house. It's like you want to be around them, because there's an energy that you create when you're being you. That's quite amazing, and is a huge invitation. So we've got about just under another minute to go before the next break, and the next break we'll bring in Katarina Wallentin from Sweden as well. So I just want to mention again, if you want to find out where these classes are that the five of us are doing in January, join us on the 23rd, myself and Brendon and Megan and Katarina on the 30th of January. You can go to beingyouclass.com/Premier, PREMIER. And if you want to find out more about Access Consciousness, accessconsciousness.com, or Joy of Business, accessjoyofbusiness.com. And don't forget, if you want to email us any questions or any topics you want us to go over, email OMTimes at accessjoyofbusiness.com. And we might play with some of those topics and never know what is on the next show. So we're off to our next break, and please don't go away. Come back with us with Megan, Jonas, Katarina, Brendon, Simone on Joy Business, being you and changing the world.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
The Laying On of Hands Healing Radio Show is about treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. Join me, Charles Smith, as I share life-balancing measures such as nutrition and spiritual practices to help you take charge of your own health and wellness every Thursday at 7 p.m. on OMTimes Radio.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here are facilitating a class for the Earth with the Earth. The Earth class is a special 3-day class designed to give you the tools to create change wherever you go on this beautiful planet of ours. Join Gary and Dane in Houston, Texas, or online January 24th to the 26th. Go to www.accessconsciousness.com/earthclass for more information. All proceeds will go to El Lugar, a non-profit foundation dedicated to creating greater ecological possibilities.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
everybody, welcome back. You're with Simone Milasas' Joy of Business radio show here. This is definitely going quick for me. So we're talking about being you and changing the world. And we've got Miss Katarina Wallentin, who I'd love to hear some stories from you, or tools or questions or anything in regards to this topic.
Well, I want to start by saying, you know that you talked about snow, right? So I was thinking about the snowflakes because they're all different. You know, every single darn snowflake. It's snowing here in Sweden right now. It's like these big flakes falling down. Finally, we've been waiting for snow since, a month at least. And they're falling down, and each and every one are like amazingly beautiful. They get caught on your gloves, and you can watch them, and they're all different, kind of like, all of us, like truly unique. And it's amazing that nature creates that all those snowflakes are different. Anyway. So I just thought
I love that.
It's one of those.
Let's just 1 second, because it's true. It's amazing that nature creates that. But guess what? It's amazing that all the people in the world and how we are created. And if nature doesn't look at being like somebody else. Nature doesn't judge itself and go, oh, look, I've got better leaves than you have. It just grows leaves. So what if we were willing to be more like nature? And what if being more like nature was actually being more like you? So everything it doesn't allow you to tap into that energy and be that, where you destroy and uncreate it. Times of God's dealing, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. Okay, go on. That was beautiful.
Well, and the other thing, I was thinking about that already when I saw, because Simone and Brendon put up this beautiful little video of them heli skiing on Facebook. So if you want to watch it, you can go and check it out. And I was looking at that with the presence that is. Like there are times in my life where I know I am being me in totality. And those are times like when I facilitate someone else, or when there's an emergency, I have to have like a fire, whatever, something that I have to handle straight away, or when I'm being on stage. Like there are certain times, sport is another, like diving or doing something that really requires me to be completely present. And then I am completely me, because you can't really be completely present unless you're completely yourself. And those are the times when I feel alive. And when I'm not that present, I miss it. And I come to the awareness that I'm actually missing me, because I'm not completely there. If I'm not completely present, there's like a part of me that's not around. It's a part of me that I kind of shut off. So I think a lot of with this whole being you is coming alive. And that coming alive comes from an aggressive presence that we can have in our lives all the time. We can actually be so present that we automatically become us, because we're there. We're like present with ourselves in every single cell. So the more I do this, the more that is part of what I enjoy about it, but also part of what creates the magic about this being me in totality. It's the aliveness of it. So that part is just so important for me to bring up in these, when we talk about being you, that it's the sense of being fully alive and fully present.
Cool. Thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this out there, and all of you, I want you to give everyone a question or a tool that they can start to be more of them, or some sort of short story on something to do with money, business, sex, relationship, bodies, or one that you come up with. Okay? Who wants to go first?
I can go first. Okay, you go first. Okay,
you go, Jonas.
I'll go. Okay, so what I have noticed is that when I am willing to be me, there's actually, most situations shows up differently, and it perceives and feels in my universe as there's actually possibilities that I normally wouldn't have that if I wasn't willing to be me. And they just seem to appear or get created. And one of my absolute favorite questions that I actually use in most areas for this is, what am I not willing to be that if I was willing to be that would create a different possibility? That's one of my absolute favorites, because I have learned over the years what I'm being is sort of creating and defining what possibilities will show up and not. So that's one of my
I love it.
favorite ones.
Can you run that question again and then do clearing after it?
Yes. Yes. So what am I or have I not been willing to be that if I would be willing to be would create a totally different possibility here? And everything that doesn't allow that, can we destroy it and create it all?
Yes.
Right
yes.
around good about for the book on life, suspense and beyond.
And I'm sure you're all used to it if you've been listening to the radio show, but just in case you want to find out something, you can go to theclearingstatement.com, and there's a whole bunch of information about what this clearing statement is. But guess what? It works. Okay, who's next?
I'll go.
Okay, go.
So for me, relationships was a huge place where I was really trying to get it right by by everybody else that's out there, and the romance and the happily ever after. And when it didn't go the right way, I was devastated. So what I kept asking was if I could create a relationship that truly worked for me based on nothing that had ever existed before, what would I choose and what would I create? And that's changed the game. So I have a relationship that doesn't, there are things that don't go the way that, your girlfriends would say that they should go, or what, all that stuff that's out there about relationship that you could easily make yourself wrong in your relationship wrong. But if you truly ask that, then you can create something different.
That is a huge topic too. Thank you so much, Megan. And one of the things I just want to reiterate, you said like your relationship doesn't go the way all your girlfriends think it should go. And it's like, what if you didn't buy into anybody else's point of view, especially about relationship? I mean, there's so many expectations and projections of what it should be like. And it's like, what if you were willing to be totally different? So everything at that is Times of Godzilla, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all known, shorts, boys and beyond. Okay, I'll go next because you know what? I'm gonna mention the taboo topic, sex. Oh my goodness. After the relationships. And one of the things that with sex, and it's like what I realized after Access Consciousness and also after being with Brendon, is I realized how I was not willing to be me in sex, and was not willing to be totally present in sex, and also be whatever that I thought somebody else thought that I should be, rather than what would I like my sex life to be like? What would I like to do? What would I like to play with, etc.? And one of the things that Brendon said to me when we first hooked up, which I thought was brilliant, he said, how many times do two people have sex when both people actually desire it? Or is one person always trying to please the other? So have a look at your sex life and have a look at if you could actually change that. And what if it was this total invitation of two people being them and actually having this huge amount of enjoyment, no expectation, just the joy, just the playtime of sex, rather than an expectation or a projection of what it should be. Everything at that is Times of Godzilla, and where you destroy and uncreate it. Yeah. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all known, shorts, boys and beyond. So we've got a couple of minutes left. Who wants to go next? Katarina or Brendon?
I'll go. Well, I guess for me, I remember as a kid, and I wasn't, I didn't have the best of childhoods, and I was sitting at school one day and I was crying under a tree, and I was thinking to myself, I don't remember a day where I hadn't cried. And I remember that day still because that was like the moment I gave up. I went, you know what, this is just too hard. So I started trying to fit in, and, the rest of my life I just spent, well, if I do this, what will this person think? And if I do that, what will this person think? So what if being you is about actually honouring yourself and actually, seeing what it is that you'd like to create and not giving in to other people's realities and points of view, and actually, finding what it is that works for you. I know for me now, I've made a demand in myself that I just won't give that up anymore. Yesterday we had this interesting thing where someone said something to me and I was furious. For like an hour I was walking around our apartment just ranting and raving, and it felt great to be me, but I didn't give myself up. I didn't give myself up for that person. So that gave me the awareness that, oh, wow, I'm actually not giving myself up anymore. So, what if judgment and other people's points of view wasn't real, and you could, have what works for you no matter what? So
what was the difference in what you would have done a few years ago and to what you did this time when someone judged you?
Oh, well, I just give myself up for their point of view. I just crawl into a hole. I put up my walls, crawl into a hole, and I'd be like, the pathetic pile of crap. And it's like, now it's, okay, cool, that's your point of view. All right, moving on. I mean, I was still pissed off for an hour and ranting and raving, which was...
But that was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun for me. So it was hilarious. But it's, when people have these points of view, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're wrong or you're strange. You're just different. We're all different, like we've talked about on this show. So what if you could find the difference that you are and shoot for that?
I like that. So what if you could find the difference that you are and shoot for that, whatever that may be? Now, what if even if you, after this radio show, you just took a piece of paper or grabbed your iPhone or, whatever you use currently and wrote down 10 things that if you were being you, what would that look like? What would you choose? And it's like, what would you change? And have a look at it and look at the list. And it's like, have a look at each one and go, oh, is this actually truly what I would like to choose? Am I being me here? Or is this somebody else's point of view? Is this somebody else's projection of what I should be doing? I mean, it was interesting doing the heli skiing thing too, because I didn't go heli skiing for Brendon. I went heli skiing for me. And it's like, he would have gone, and it's like, I know he enjoyed it more when I was there, but he still would have gone, and there was nowhere in my world that I was doing that for anybody else except for me. Because of that demand I'd made for at least 25 years, and I finally went, wow, I've been avoiding this rather than choosing it. So if you write down those 10 things, and it's like, and you were choosing for you, what would it be? What would it look like? What would your life look like in 5 years' time if you chose those 10 things and more? And it can be more. It doesn't have to be 10. So everything that is times a Godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Yes. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyond. And don't forget to check out the book that we're all referring to as well. Dr. Dane here, who wrote it, is Being You, Changing the World. Like I said, you can get it from Amazon. You can get it from accessconsciousness.com from the shop there. And you can also get it in the audio, which is a great, I love driving along listening to it in audio. That's one of the classes that I play at nighttime. When my stepson comes home from his mum's place a lot, I play it at night on a really quiet tone. And the next day when we wake up, it's like he's back to being him. So what if even just listening to the book on audio was an invitation for you to be you? So we're off to our next break. Don't go away. We've got one more segment with Megan, Jonas, Katarina, Brendon, and myself, Simone Milasas, on Joy of Business. Being you, changing the world. Being happy.
Welcome to a special one-time class based on Dr. Dane Here's Being You, Changing the World book. This class has no prerequisites and uses the toolbox of Access Consciousness. For this one-time premiere, you can join us in the end of January 2016 in Australia, Sweden, USA, or Denmark. Go to beingnewclass.com/premiere to sign up. Is now the time to be what and who you actually came here to be.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi everybody, welcome back. Your Joy Business, Simone Milasas, and we're talking about being you, changing the world. And just as I went off to the last break, I was referring to the book, Being You, Changing the World, that Dr. Dane here wrote, and the audio of it. And what I do is my stepson. Now, I guess I'm lucky enough to have Nash as my son, and he came along when he was 5. So if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't get to have all the dirty nappies, etc. I just got to have this brilliant, awesome child at 5 years of age come into my life. And there's still a lot of different things that you deal with being a stepmom. And it's like, and trying not to be their new best mate, and it's like, or, trying to please them, etc. And there's been a lot of tools that I've come across with Access Consciousness that I've had to use with parenting. So this last segment, we're just going to touch on the being you with parenting. Now, we've got Brendon, obviously, who Nash is his son. We've got Katarina, who has a daughter, and we've got Megan, who has a little boy, Tristan, and we've got Jonas, who's also a stepdad. So we're all in some way a parent here. And they're all completely different situations, and yet I know that we all use the same tools. And one of the tools I'm just going to start off with, and I'll get you guys to all, give it a little short story or a tool that you use with being you with parenting. Because sometimes this is probably one of the most uncomfortable places in the world. It's like there is no handbook. You don't get given a handbook if you're going to be a parent. Or sometimes I think being a step-parent is even harder because you're trying not to be a parent, yet you're there and they're looking at you as an authority, etc. And I remember this one time when Nash wasn't treating me very well. The way he spoke to me wasn't very nice. And that is not him. Like, I know when he's not being him. And one of the tools that Gary Douglas used with his stepdaughter, Shannon O'Hara, I pulled that out and I used that. And because I wanted to say to him, you know what, you don't get to speak to me like that. And I said, you know what, you have a choice. And I said, you can speak to me like that. I said, but just know I can do it 10 times worse. And he looked at me, and I walked outside and I walked downstairs because Brendon was in the garden. I told him what happened because I was like, oh my God, this just happened. Brendon goes, it's okay. You did okay. And I left it because I allowed him to have the choice. This is your choice. You can do what you choose to do, but just know I can be 10 times meaner. And then that day when he came home from school, the first thing he did was run up the stairs and run over to me, give me the biggest hug. We didn't say anything. He just gave me this huge big hug, and he was back to being him. Now, that was definitely not easy to use that tool. I had all of these different, things go on for me about being a bad stepmom or something like that, but it worked. And it's like, so some of these tools, like I said, are not comfortable, but being you, being a parent and being you with your kids, and it's like the invitation that you can be for them is something quite incredible.
Well,
so Brendon.
Well, you gave him choice in that moment as well, which is what, I've always tried to do with him. So he knew, okay, if I make this choice, this is going to show up. But if I make this choice, this could show up. So we've always tried to teach him about his choices, and that his choices will start to create his life, which they are and doing. And that's the way, I like to show him that, hey, all right, so that was an interesting choice. What did that create? And he'll go, oh, and then he can make another choice, and then he can make another choice. But teaching your kids to make just choices in the moment is a wonderful tool, and I've seen him start to create his life. It's just amazing to see how it shows up. My other thing with Nash was my target as a dad was always to break the cycle with him, to not have him grow up with judgment. So because I grew up judging, I judged myself my whole life. So I looked at, okay, so, what would it be like if I could stop that here? And for me, all these things that I'd like, I had to start choosing them for myself. So with the judgment, I couldn't expect him not to judge himself if I was walking around judging myself. I couldn't expect him to choose to be him if I was walking around not choosing to be me. So I looked at the choices I was making as a parent and who I was choosing to be, and then, kind of started from there.
I just adore you. Katarina?
Well, I would say that one of the main things that happened when I started Access, Millie was about 6, and I was a single mom, and I tried to do everything right, and I read every book I could find, and I was very confused by all this information. I started really, when I finally got that I didn't have to buy anybody else's point of view, I did, everywhere I bought what is right about parenting from someone else. That's uncreate and destroy all of that. And I did that for a long time every morning because I was so It wasn't that easy at the time. And then I came to this place, so when what? Like, if I'm not buying it from someone else, how will I know what to do? And one of the tools that's really been amazing for me with my daughter has been asking really simple, what will work for us? What is honoring for both of us in this situation? And the trick is not to exclude. It's not about what's honoring for her or me. It's really about what's honoring for both of you. So there have been times where she really is being just a little brat, and I say, no, this doesn't work for me, Millie. This really doesn't work. Something has to change. And I'm honoring me because this situation doesn't work for me. And she has a choice to change that. And we look at what we can change. And it's kind of been something that's opened up for her. And she now tells me that this doesn't work for me when there are things that is going on that doesn't work for her in my home or in her dad's home. So somehow this honoring part has opened up this space where there is more space for her to be her from that point of view, that she actually, there is a value in her honoring her, and there's a value in me honoring me. So it's been one of the greatest tools. It comes from these sets of intimacy, like gratitude, honor, vulnerability, trust, and allowance. But it opened up this space where I could actually, when it came to it, now what? What do I do when I don't listen to anyone else? What do I do? How do I know what works for me? But the question is really what opens up that space. The question of what is honoring for both of us? What will work for both of us? So that part for me, I think it changed everything in the way I parent, and it changed everything in my life because parenting is such a big part of living, and especially if you're a single mom, it defines a lot of what you do. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's part of this as well.
No, I
How
love that.
Be
I love
you as a parent.
I love that you both actually you create the space for your daughter as well as yourself to say, hey, this isn't working for me. Because then what happens next is you can be like, okay, so what would work for you? And it doesn't necessarily mean that the parent or the child gets exactly what they want, but it's like it's open for the discussion, open for the part of what people would like, and then go, okay, so how can we work with this together? So it's a great, thank you so much, because it's a really great tool to start to include your kids in creating their life, like Brendon was saying too, with the choices that they make.
Well, I just want to also add super quick is one thing that helped me a lot as well was I gave myself the freedom to be a bad parent, to do it wrong, because then I could make a choice and go, oh, that didn't work. Okay. And then I could make another choice. So the freedom to do it wrong and to be a bad parent, plus also having the 10-second increments of choice, like where you can just make a choice and then make another one, really helped me out a lot with it.
Cool. Thank you.
And I must say, Brendon, the coolest part about that is, when I make a weird choice with my daughter, I go to her and I say, look, that really wasn't my best choice. I'm really sorry. And that opens up for her then to say, hey, look, this may not have been my brightest choice. So it opens up for her to actually be able to choose, but then also to know when, doesn't have to defend it or be right all the time. And that makes life easier as well.
Well, I know Brendon uses the manipulation of saying, I'm sorry, I'm such a bad father. And Matt goes, no, you're not, Dad. So Megan, Jonas, and it's like, what have you got to offer? I mean, you got two completely different situations again.
Well, my little one, he's 4 now, so he's constantly showing me different elements of being, I guess, how to be me, because he hasn't learned not to be him at all yet. And I call Brendon if I need help. Like, it's great to have you guys who've been parenting for a while to actually give some advice. But the main question that I use with him a lot, and it also works then on me, is that if he's throwing a tantrum or if he's being, a brat or something or whatever he's being, that's not as happy as he usually is, I'll say, who are you being? And he'll just sort of look at me. But and then I'll ask that of him. Like, I'll have these moments where I'm, being just not the parent that I would like to be, but it's this parent that I have learned to be based on, probably my parents or the parents that I've watched around me. And I'll say, I'm sorry, who am I being? Like, that's not actually how I'd like to parent. So, erase, let's start over. And so that's my favorite question right now is, who are you being?
I love that, and I love that you actually do it yourself. So it's not, because you see so many situations where parents are like, the kid's in the wrong, not like, oh, right, where am I? But what have I got to change here as well? So Jonas, we've got a couple of minutes left here for the stepdad here. What have you got to offer?
I would just, for me, the most challenging part has definitely been that my kid is sort of, he's every other week in another household, and then every other week in our household, and they are so different, and I'm just trying to show him constantly that, okay, so what if it doesn't have to be like that? It doesn't have to be like this, and you actually have choice, which is quite challenging sometimes, and you have to pull up every rabbit you have in your hat, but at least giving him the sense that, okay, it doesn't have to be like that. Just because it's like that when you're with your dad, you don't have to react the same way here. There is another choice. But, it's a constant practice in education.
It is a constant practice in education, and that's what we have at our house as well. And I think there's a great side, too, to educating kids that life is different. People are different. So how do you deal with that? And how do you still remain to be you and make those choices throughout your life that create your life, not based on somebody else's point of view? Because, how many of us thought that, what our parents said was right or correct, and we were wrong. Yeah. So everything that is, and everywhere that you're brought into that your parents knew everything, guess what? They don't. Don't tell anyone. Will you destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So we could go on with this subject a lot, and we are almost at the end of our show. So I really want to thank you guys all for coming on. Don't forget to check out beingyouclass.com/premiere.
Oh, and quickly, the live, it's live stream, so it's super easy. You can just jump on your computer anywhere in the world and watch it. And we're finishing, so thank you guys.